A couple months ago, something very supernatural happened in my life financially. It was something I never could have expected. It was so divine, orchestrated by the Most High. That's the only way to explain it. It has their names written all over it. For me to get to the point, I'm going to give you a little bit of back history real quick. Today is July 5th, 2026. 9 years ago today is my anniversary. I got on a one-way plane ticket at 24 years old. July 5th, 2017. Trying to rebuild a life for myself, given the very dark circumstances, environment, mentality, hell that I was going through. I didn't understand the depths of the whole spiritual thing because nobody explained that to me. I just thought I had a hippie side. But I was being called to the wilderness, and so I did it. A year and a half goes by, somewhere around there, and I'm trying to build this foundation for myself as I'm overcoming all these obstacles, daddy issues, generational trauma, all of this negative mindset because of what I had experienced growing up, all the things, right? Just going through it all the emotions, like all the emotions. You want to talk about a spiritual healing journey? I mean, I can't sit here long enough to explain to you, right? But I didn't know this at the time. I ended up taking this loan out. It was a quick loan. I had just bought my vehicle that I'm sitting in right now when I moved up here. When I got on that one-way plane ticket, I got it that week. A couple days later, I got it that week, and I also got the job that week, and I started that job that week. It all lined up within 1 week because I had it, quote unquote, manifesting. I don't manifest, I co-create. So I had already been co-creating. I didn't quite understand the depths of it. I had already envisioned moving to the mountains from the flatlands. Never seen snow before. Never seen leaves change. I had already manifested this, quote unquote. But no, I was creating this. And before you know it, I was there. And then adulthood is hitting you so strong in your mid-20s, right? And then you're taking out this loan. Before you know it, you're giving the title to the vehicle that you just bought, that you own, to these people. Before you know it, you don't realize the interest rate because you need the money right then, right now. You don't have the support system. You're realizing all of this. You're realizing how much the ones that you quote unquote love, or that quote unquote love you and that you love, you're realizing you have two different outlooks and you show love two different ways. And I had to truly learn how to love myself throughout all of this process because what I was conditioned with growing up, it was conditioned love. It wasn't unconditional love. And I thought having to do for others and all this stuff was a way of showing your love. Meanwhile, they would, it's that whole process thing that you're going through. And so before you know it, 5 years go by and I've been paying this, right? Dealing with COVID, bought a motor home, had to sell the house, had to leave the fiance at the time because I was divinely guided to same sex. Left my job at UPS, my good old union job, and literally being divinely guided, doing what I ended up on a farm on the opposite side of the state that I ended up moving to, that literally I co-created because I'd always wanted to be on a farm. Before you know it, I'm on a farm while everybody's going crazy and I'm in the middle of nowhere riding a four-wheeler to and from work. Got my first buck. All these things going on, literally doing it all, being divinely guided, doing the spiritual walk that people sit here and talk about. Actually doing the walk that Jesus Christ told you to do. I didn't have the option of waiting on a savior. I had to save myself. That's how deep, dark, and raw it was. I had to clear the 7 chakras. And before you know it, I've just, everything in me, I've done it all, right? Calculate that, $450 a month, times 12, times 5. I didn't even take out that amount, right? But it came to a point, before I got this paper and this whole story I'm talking to you about, a year and a half ago, was when I stopped paying this bill. 6 months before I stopped paying this bill, after busting my ass for so long, being mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it just drained, being so tired, my soul dog passes away out of nowhere in my arms. I'm a strong person. I've been told this by folks. I've been told I got bigger balls than some men they know. You know, I've gotten comments like this. But this, when I say soul dog, I'll never get that piece of me back. At least not right now in this world. It literally, it was out of nowhere. So it destroyed me. It destroyed me for, like, I couldn't breathe for a week. I didn't have no shoulder to cry on. And you want to know what the people that I was supposed to be able to turn to? Like my mother? Yeah, my sister, her daughter's her dog's turning 18 and she's getting worried. I wish I had 18 years with my soul dog. Oh, I forgot. She was the one that helped me get through the hell that I endured from you two. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have been able to get through the hell that I got through. And so this was very, 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 you know, this was, I mean, it literally 13 years and all of a sudden gone. When I had nobody in the physical to turn to, nobody there for me, she was. That was my shotgun rider, day in and day out. Before you know it, a couple months later, I've been working at the Postal Service, having to use this car that I'm in still to work in. Not as in my everyday driver. Now it's my work vehicle. And so I'm trying to do all this for the past year. My car keeps breaking down. Things keep happening. Tires, wheel bearings, radiator. All these other things going on, right? And it's not stopping. So I stopped the job. After my girl passed away, all the signs were there like, nah. I stepped back from the job because there was something that happened and it was like, yo, you need to go because you're not appreciated here. Why? Because this is just another example in your life of you pouring so much into others, even whether it be a relationship, your own family members, a job, or anything. And you not getting it back. It not being reciprocated. You constantly pouring into other people's cup because you got that energy. You got that high vibrational energy. You carry that light to you. But you didn't know this all this time. But you knew you were different. But as the time went on, you started to connect it all. Before you know it, my refrigerator goes out. This is all within 3 months. Before you know it, Hurricane Helene happens. Everything I just fell in love with, everything that I tried rebuilding my life on around the region and everything, just got literally hammered by a massive flood that literally geographically changed everything I fell in love with. I've run mail in Boone. I've literally kayaked down the Nolichucky River. I fly into Asheville. I used to have a house out there in Chucky, in Greene County, where all of these things, devastation, bridges, gone. And I mean, I live on a creek. I had to move my car that morning on the other side of the bridge. I was one of the only bridges on the creek that stayed up. I didn't have power for 2 weeks. I'm not complaining about it. But that's how much I was affected by it. And before you know it, here I am within 4 months, my soul dog gone, having to leave a job because I'm divinely orchestrated to do it. All of a sudden, my refrigerator's out. And then we have Hurricane Helene happening. What is it, 2 months later after Hurricane Helene, that's when Thanksgiving happens? After Hurricane Helene, that's just what showed me between my dog, my job that my family didn't know what was going on, but I did throw hints that I was having car problems, but nobody cared to, hey, do you need any help or anything like that? That didn't go on over the years. Ever since I've been gone, my dad might have called me once or twice to check on me, to say, hey, how you doing, honey? Like, he's very, very tough love type of guy. No crying, chin up, put your shoulders back, carry on. Raised to be a strong, independent woman. But boy, did I realize how strong and independent I had to be just from my own family. Just from the man that I wanted to fall into at my darkest, toughest breakup, whatever times. No. Be strong. And so they showed their true colors, and I was guided. After years and years, this was probably the 16th cherry on top of the cake to literally, you need to step back away from them. Because they wanted to blame you your whole entire life, it seems like. And yet, you're 600 plus miles away, but yet, you're still the blame. You're still the black sheep. You're still the scapegoat. The definition of a lone wolf. You have mastered alchemy. I didn't understand that. This was all coming to foreplay. Because when my girl passed away, my soul dog passed away, that's when the universe said, all right, girl, we're going to show you what you've been doing all these years. We're going to show you. I didn't understand that somebody will cast spells on you when you don't even know them, just because they might be jealous of you, just because they might be jealous of your beauty, that somebody might cast a spell on you because you're dating a guy, that the higher powers that be that think they have actual true power are the ones siphoning powers that I have, and plenty of others like me, to try to manipulate the spiritual realm to keep their control. All these things going on. It was broken down to me that my girl, my soul dog passing away, was the trigger that I needed, because I needed her now in the spiritual, not the physical. Because that's how bad the spiritual warfare was getting. Because these entities, I've realized, up until this point, I was starting to realize, they followed me my whole life. That's why my family, and that's why it has been the way it's been. That's why my relationships have turned toxic. Because these low vibrational entities, this low vibrational spirit, demonic forces, have been hunting me for so long. And these folks don't have enough strength, willpower to actually not allow lower forces to corrupt them. In all different ways, that's just an example. There's different ways that this comes to the spiritual realm when it comes to these dark forces. You may just have the curse of a dark force on a bloodline. You may have it just on you from lifetimes ago. There's levels to it, right? But all this was being broken down to me, and it all happened when my soul dog was ripped from me. And, it was so hard watching her die in my arms out of nowhere, but yet that was the only thing I ever asked for, because she got me through stuff you can't imagine. Stuff I can't elaborate long enough for you to get it. I cut my family off. Then they had already had it planned to come up here for Thanksgiving, and I had told them, no, we don't need tourism up here. We have real problems going on. I'm from South Florida. I've been through plenty of hurricanes. This is not the same. Oh, but I mean, toughen up. You've been through hurricanes. I'm sorry, I've never been through a hurricane where you have rushing waters coming down mountains. I've never been in a hurricane where you have rushing water literally creating landslides, mountains falling apart, and everything else. I've been in hurricanes where the water rises and you're floating because you're on flat land. Oh. But I mean, I'm just a silly, dumb little girl, you know what I mean? Even though it's been all these years that I've been on my own. And then they ended up coming up here just a couple months after. And I didn't even hang out with them. And when I did go to have a Sunday breakfast with them, I couldn't. I couldn't. It was so... It's like they're automatically ready to fight, automatically in defensive mode. Like my father, he has been through so much that like I understand it. He did not heal from the trauma in his childhood. And I can understand why. Like there's no hate, there's no animosity, there's none of that on this side. I understand the depths of all of this. But as all of this was going on, I was having real life fucking problems. And I had to cut them off because I realized they weren't the ones to turn to. But yet, after all this time, nobody else is taking accountability. But yet, just because I wanted to do in my life what I was guided to do, and it didn't look like what they wanted, I was very, very, very judgely looked at. Because I didn't go off to college and be the ball player that I could have been. Well, you know what I mean? I was guided to not go to college because college didn't make no sense to me. It's a whole testimony within itself that I've made videos on that gets me to this point. I couldn't pay the bill anymore. So I stopped. Not only could I not pay the $450 bill, my highest bill, I now live in a home that I own, 30-year-old motorhome. I'd done everything I could to try to make it easier on myself, giving the inflation, the state of this country, the politics, and everything that was going on between COVID, whatever. And I'd done everything. When I was told to jump, jumped. When I was told to go right. When I was told to go left. But yet, my fruits, nothing. I couldn't see no fruits of my labor, even though I'd been putting in labor for years. And here I was, not even being able to pay my car insurance. I went a year without paying my car insurance until the state started sending me a letter saying, you have a registered vehicle, but you don't have any insurance. Because I was pulled over by a cop a couple weeks before, and I had told him, I don't know. I tried being a little slick with him. I said, I don't think I got insurance, but I didn't want to lie. And I think that's what happened. And before you know it, I got that letter, and I think, he was being very kind about it. There was so much going on. So much has gone on. I've had so many reasons to give up hope, to give up faith, and to give up, just to give up. Because these entities, these demonic forces, and Satan himself would love to see me give up, would love to see me back in a toxic environment, would love to see me underneath a bridge, drugged out, would love to see me dead, would love to see me in jail, would love to see me batshit fucking crazy. Because that's what everybody wanted me to think. But then when the mass awakening happened, whoa. All of a sudden people are starting to actually see. So wait, maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe I just been a seer all this time. Then, since you guys are so of this materialistic world, you wouldn't even know anything of the godly love, of the Heavenly Father's love, of the Most High's love, of the Creator's love, if it was looking right at you. You wouldn't even know. I know you grew up in a Christian household and you used to rebel against your father and all these things. All of it. I was knocked on my ass and everything was ripped from me. I couldn't pay a phone bill. When you're literally knocked down the way I was knocked down between losing your soul dog, leaving a job, having a geographic, catastrophic event, all happened within 3 months, and then having to leave, turn your shoulder to your own family members that you never imagined because you have so much love in your heart to give that no matter how bad they did to you, you still gave them the benefit of the doubt. You still were the bigger person, even when they never wanted to take accountability. But yet, after me being beat down so fucking hard, the Most High said, when is enough enough? Are you gonna, actually live your life? Or are you gonna live your life for them? Are you going to block out all this negativity that's all they literally throw at you? They've never been a cheerleader for you. The only time they've been a cheerleader was on a ball field. And that was already not even pretty cheerleading anyways. And then I'm not even able to pay my phone bill. And then these holidays are happening. And then I'm trying to figure out a job. Meanwhile, my car's still breaking down after these events. after my parents, my family wanted to come up here for the holiday and do absolutely nothing to help me. I had 200-gallon propane tanks I needed filled before winter came in. My motorhome had been sitting on dirt. It had been sinking because of how wet the region had been, how bad Hurricane Helene had been, and everything since then. And before Helene, it was wet too. That was the thing. It was already wet before. And so my motorhome had already been sinking. I don't have somebody to help me. I'm building a whole new life for myself, as I'm being judged in an area that I just moved to because I'm not a dope head and I'm not a Christian sitting here going to church every Sunday while they're occultists, while they judge, while they give evil eye. Watching cops come up to my place asking about my neighbors as they have stolen vehicles of people that live right down the road. I've watched death happen in front of me from my neighbors, from my own loved ones. I've watched apparently shot himself. I literally had to take my own dog's life, my honey boy. I had to take his life about 8 months after I couldn't pay this bill, after, I cut off my family. I had to physically take him out because I had nobody to turn to. He was so sick. I was literally, it was like he was being tortured. I was torturing myself. Waking up every morning to him and his own feces. I had to do it because I had nobody else to turn to, nor did I have the money. And then, a few months after that, guess what? I'm jumping through absolute hoops, doing everything I possibly can, being the magician that I have been being, making something out of nothing to get to my grandfather who fell, ended up getting sick. It all happened so freaking quick. Ended up getting to my grandfather with 8 hours to spare to be there with him in his last breath that I didn't have my whole life. Who was the best. He was the reason I was able to heal the daddy issues the way I did. Because I did the work, but he helped me feel it through his true, divine, masculine love. He ain't related to me blood, but we're related in the spiritual realm. It don't have to be blood. Me and him, we have a connection, and we've always had a connection because we have a telepathic connection. And being 600 plus miles away, it proved it. I was able to spend a couple months with him, when I was in the motorhome after I sold the house and everything in the beginning of COVID, like 2021 or something like that. I was able to actually spend a couple months with him. And it was the best months of my life. And I was able to be there as he took his last breath. I laid next to him all night. I got there at 10 o'clock, and by 7 in the morning, he was gone. After not being able to see him for 2 years because of how hard I was pushing, and I couldn't get down to Florida because I couldn't afford it. He was on Social Security. He couldn't afford it, but he did make a plan to come up here. And guess what? The day they buried him was the day that I was supposed to see him. Because he was supposed to come up here in the mountains where he's originally from, where he has kinfolk. And that was supposed to be the day he saw me. But he was buried. And I wasn't there for the burial. Because all I needed was to hold his hand in his last breaths, and I got what I needed. So much pain and suffering. So many reasons to give up. And this is not even the full story, not even a quarter of the story. I've made videos over the last year and a half to try to elaborate, to get my testimony out there. But this is just a backbone that I'm trying to give you for how much I should have already gave up. I mean, I had axles coming out of my car going through Georgia, out of my drive shaft. I had my motorhome, broke down in Georgia another year later in my motorhome, the alternator going out. I've had the mechanic looked at me and was like, what? Like, you don't see this often. I've had people tell me, dude, if you didn't have bad luck, you wouldn't have luck at all. But yet, no matter how hard I tried to work on myself, it just seemed like this invisible enemy just wanted to devour me. Because I used to work at a strip club before I was even legally able to drink. I was a cocktail waitress because of things that were happening, and I needed to get money quick, and a bird chirped in my ear about it. I ended up going there, and before you know it, here I was in a strip club. But I got out, and I never sold my soul. So do you get it? Of course the enemy's going to come and devour me. When you have the light that I have, it surprises me to this day that I have the love that I have in me. Meanwhile, nobody has duplicated it to me. And the one time I did feel it was from a same-sex relationship that I was guided to leave. But I got massive revelations about it after. It was the most painful thing. But I was divinely guided to do it, and I did it. And I learned what you try to read about in a Bible. I learned the truth about it from my own experiences. What people study, what people go to school for, and what Jesus Christ actually tries to teach you and the walk he wants you to walk, I've done it. I don't need to go to school about spiritual warfare because I have mastered it. Because of what I've been through, I've become a master alchemist without even knowing it. I didn't even understand intuition. I just thought I had street smarts growing up. I didn't realize I was highly intuitive. I didn't realize people can't see like I can see. I didn't realize people can't sense like I can sense. But I've had every single reason to lose faith and to give up. Especially while I'm sitting there barely even able to feed myself. I've contemplated going to the strip club and actually being the stripper this time and getting on a pole and doing it for a weekend just to get a come up. I've contemplated going on OnlyFans, taking that route. But I didn't. And I was knocked down so absolutely hard that when you get knocked down as hard as I do, it is so hard to pull yourself up. I'm sitting in a vehicle right now that has 2 tires in the back that have wire bout coming out on the sides of them. I have brakes and rotors that aren't sounding good. They're starting to squeal, and make these noises. I'm in a vehicle that's over 300,000 miles. It took me, I just told you I had, since this, you think I was able to change my oil? I went 10,000 miles over an oil change. It wasn't just the car insurance I wasn't able to pay. It wasn't just the phone bill I wasn't able to pay. I can't tell you how many times I had 10 cents left in my account just so I could put enough dollar to get through the day of electric. Even to this day, I haven't been able to shower in my own motorhome in over a year. People can talk about the spiritual walk and how hard it is until you got somebody in front of you preaching that they did do it and that they have done it and how hard it is and how bad and how intense and how deep it truly is. When you have nobody there to lift you up. Because you're the strong one. Why do you need anybody else? Nobody wants to check on the strong one. So when I had every single reason to give up, to lose my faith, I didn't. And before you know it, I'm getting that knock at my door. The cops are here. I wasn't home. I ended up pulling in the driveway to the piece of paper that the cops were there. Come to find out, they're trying to serve me the papers for this debt that I owe. Mind you, over the 5 years I paid the $450, I had already paid it off and then some. So I got this piece of paper that says you need to show up in court on April 30th at 9 a.m. for $17,442.71. I didn't even take this amount out. Mind you, I hadn't paid a bill for over a year, so I'm sure a lot of this has to do with that, with the interest of not paying, and then you got to pay your attorney fees and everything else that they want to accumulate into this bill, right? Mind you, I haven't been able to actually physically go buy myself clothes, like a whole new wardrobe. I've been wearing the same clothes for years. I have holes in my underwear, holes in my socks. I mean, when you are literally, it's a matter of need and not want. Some of you folks, a lot of you folks, don't even know how to appreciate a nice, warm shower. Because there's folks out here like me that don't have the conveniency of it. But you wouldn't know, because I'm not bitter about it. Because I've learned from it. And I've gained my wisdom and my knowledge from all the negativity, all the darkest things that I've been through. I've utilized it for my good. I became the magician. I made something out of nothing. I turned a negative into a positive, and I have done it. And I have so many examples on how to lead you to the water, but I'm not going to make you drink it. A week or so before my court date, I'm talking to somebody. And before you know it, they're giving me some money because I mentioned I'm nervous because I don't have these clothes to just look, as presentable as I can. I've been working in a machine shop and I got, oil stains and all these stuff, I've just, from restaurants and all different. Mowing grass, doing the yard work, everything. It's all on me, right? And before you know it, I'm given some money and I actually am able to go and get myself a brand new pair of jeans and a nice shirt. And that's what I did. And so I ended up looking presentable, looking the best I can once court came around. And I'm sitting there. I've never been in this environment. I've never been in this situation. And I do everything in my willpower to avoid situations like this. I've had encounters with cops that were not good. When I was a little girl, I was traumatized by one because of what happened to my mother. There's a lot of things. So I try to avoid this at all costs. And here I was, waiting for a judge to come in, sitting with other folks. Before the judge comes in, there's an attorney for the creditors going around calling people's names. I didn't hear my name, so I'm just like, okay, I don't know. So I'm sitting there like, okay. Before you know it, he doesn't call anybody's name. Before you know it, the judge comes in, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, okay, I've been probably sitting here for 20, 30 minutes now, and I'm like, what the heck? And I'm like triple checking. Today's the 30th, right? I'm here, right? I'm in the right room, right? Okay. So the judge is calling people, whatever. Before you know it, I hear the name of the creditor that, this loan is with. And I perk up. I say, okay, pay attention. So I'm paying attention, right? Before you know it, he says my name. And I'm like, oh, crap. Okay. So I'm walking up to the thing. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? Yep. That's Alyssa Palmer. Yep, that's me. And you see, at this point, I had already came to the conclusion that I was going to bring it to trial. Because I have a good case. Because over 5 years of being loyal, doing the right thing, $450, how much is enough when it comes to interest rates? It's just beyond bizarre. You expect me to pay for it for another 10 years? So I was ready to go to trial. And he goes to say, the attorney or whoever that's supposed to be representing this creditor, and all you hear is cricket. And I'm just like, I look at the judge, I look at the attorney next to me, because why? Because he had been representing the same creditor. I had heard the same creditor with a different person, right? Because he's representing multiple creditors. And so I'm looking over at him, looking at the judge. I look back at him. He's looking through his paperwork. No, sir. No, sir. Nope. I don't have. Nope. And the judge is looking at him. I'm looking at the back of the judge. I'm looking back at him. And the judge is looking down, or, then looks back up, and I go to hand dude next to me my paperwork. And he goes, yeah, and he tells him who the attorney's supposed to be that's representing, coming up against me, representing for, the creditor. And before you know it, in the case of I hereby clarify this case dismissed. This is all within 30 seconds, and I'm just sitting there like a deer in headlights. Like, did I just hear that? Did I just hear that? I look over at homeboy, the attorney. He looks at me like, did that just happen? And I'm looking back at him like, did it? No words are being spoken. I look back at the judge and I said, thank you, in the most softest manner I think I've ever spoken, because I barely got it out of my mouth. I was like, thank you. I don't even know if he heard me, because he's not directly right in front of me. There's space in between us. And I look back at the attorney, and he looks at me, that look of like, yo, you better go. You better turn around and get out of here. And that's exactly what I did. And then I got in my car, and I was cheesing ear to ear and crying at the same time, laughing hysterically at the Most High, at the Divine, how funny they are. Because I was over here just like, when you have tried and you have pushed as hard as I have pushed, and you don't see not one thing in your physical, you don't see the fruits of your labor, and you have pushed and you have watched all different types of people just continually to go, and you're sitting back here like you're stuck in quicksand. But so much was happening internally, so much healing. Like, even my nervous system, I had to reset and redo all of this. But in that time frame, when I couldn't start paying this bill, this was also the time where the biggest rug was swept from underneath me. Because it cornered me to realize how much I have overcame, even though I can't physically see it. I actually had to stop and think, because my mind is so always go, 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 always thinking into the future. My mind doesn't stay in the past. And so I had to actually stop and think like, oh wow. Oh wow. Oh wow. I really did do that. Oh wow. But then I also realized during this time how bad my energy was manipulated, because after I couldn't pay this bill, I ended up working an overnight job, getting an overnight job for a couple months. And what I would do, this was the beginning of me not having any water in my motorhome. What I would do is I would go during lunch over to the gym at 1 o'clock in the morning, go take a shower and come back. Because I wasn't an outside working, I was inside indoors, so I wasn't sweating, and I was able to, to work with it. And I was able to realize the difference of me sleeping during the day and me sleeping at night, and understand what truly happens while we're sleeping, and how much of a war I was enduring, and why I would wake up so tired and restless like I did. Even though the rug was pulled from underneath me, there was so many revelations going on, right? I could have looked at it and said, oh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened, and looking at it in a worldly, physical perspective. But when I actually stopped and thought for a minute to give myself credit, because I'm the first one to beat myself up, but I had to become the first one to give myself credit too. And I had to find peace while all hell was breaking loose. I had already pulled myself out of hell. But when my soul dog passed away in my arms, and that chain of events happened, and my family acted the way they did, oh, I went back. I went back. And I wanted all my power back. I wanted everything that belonged to me that was stolen. ever since I was a little girl. I had the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck when I was born. It's that serious. Even though I'll never physically see that amount of money, like just handed to me, like, let me rephrase that. Because you should never say never. Because that job I just told you about, the overnight job, I told myself I'd never work there. And the Most High said, oh, okay, I need you to work there. Because I need to have eyes in there. And it's going to be divinely orchestrated because I need to show you something regardless. So get over it. But so I won't say never. Even though I don't physically see this $17,442.71, even though it was just wiped away, it's something that had so much weight on my shoulders for so long. Every single month, $450 just on one bill when you're trying to do it on your own. And I mean on your own. I don't mean selling my body, selling my soul, selling my feet, doing anything to that nature. I mean literally trying to do the righteous thing, the moral path, what I was divinely guided to do. It never crossed my mind that within 30 seconds of my first court date, within 30 seconds, that this case would be dismissed. But that's the type of Heavenly Father I serve. My life has been so divinely orchestrated. I have so many videos that I've made to get the testimony out there. To explain to you, to show you what Jesus Christ was teaching all along. Because little did I know that was the path I was taking. Because I didn't open up a Bible. And when I did go to a Christian school for 9 months, they didn't preach nothing about no gospel. I was in intensive reading my whole entire life in school. Because I could read a room, I can read energy. And the Most High needed me in that mentality and not in a book. But I get revelations from the folks that are in the book that tell me how they think, their perspective, their testimony from it, their opinion. I receive revelation and downloads off of the folks that do pick up the book. I'm not saying I'm not going to pick up the book. I'm not saying I haven't. I'm not saying I hadn't read a scripture or two. I just haven't read the whole thing because it's confusing to me. And it's not the only book that's confusing to me. So I'm not pinpointing it. I've read 2 books in my life, The Lost Child and something else, but it was the same. And the reason why was because he was being abused, and it literally grabbed my attention to where I didn't want to get out of the book. And so reading energy and picking up frequencies and all these things are normal to me, but not to you. And I've been criticized for that my whole life. But my gifts is what led me, being divinely orchestrated and listening to my intuition, going within and finding my higher self, healing that inner child in me that was never able to play. All the things, the ugliest path you could imagine. And even when I should have gave up, I didn't. Even when I should have lost faith, I didn't. Even when I had every reason to, I still didn't. And yet, within 30 seconds of me being in front of a judge, this amount of money is... I'm going to show you. But I'm going to try and make it to where you don't see all this information, because you never know how people are nowadays, and you just don't need to see that. So what I'm going to try to do is show you the date and show you the amount. That's the date. I don't know if you can see it. That's the amount. Okay? And then I got served these papers the middle of March. Oh, I'm sorry. Served April 1st. They tried serving me, started to serve me in the middle of April, or the middle of March, but they were able to serve me April 1st. Right? April 30th, court date. And then I received this in the mail, the 14th of May, 2026, letting me know that hereby dismiss the above styled action without prejudice. And I will show you this. I'm going to try and keep some of this out because you never know nowadays. Did y'all see that good? I hope so. And so, in today's world, we have like the religious folks, Christianity, the spiritual community, and then you got the witches and the warlocks. Okay, you got one saying to rely on your Savior coming, not do what He told you to save yourself. You got one spiritually on the community side talking about manifestations and all of these things. And then you got the witches, the warlocks trying to manipulate the spiritual realm, trying to cast out their spells, their jars, their whatever. But I'm here to remind you that Jesus Christ is not a witch or a warlock, like the spiritual community wants to say. I did not go outside of myself to make this happen. This was straight hard work, going inward and not relying on anything outside. There was no financial spell. There was no jar put in a freezer. There was no going to a practitioner. I don't even know how to go there or where to go or who to call or even how to do that. I didn't even know. I thought a practitioner was in the medical field. I didn't understand it was also a spiritual practitioner. I didn't do any of that. I don't manifest. I co-create with the Most High, with the divine. Because why? You can manifest with demons. You can manifest with dark spirits. Especially if it's not meant for you. Especially if it's not part of your destiny or your calling. It's that deep. But don't tell me my Heavenly Father is not real. And don't mock Him either. I've had every single reason to lose my faith. And even to this day, my physicality doesn't look pretty, but I still have faith. And stuff like this, $17,442.71, is just another reminder of how good my Father and my Mother are. My Heavenly Father and my Divine Mother are. And in today's world, while everybody's being misled, while everybody wants to talk about manifesting, while you got witches, these new witches coming into the spiritual community, or whatever you want to call it, just know there's people out here that don't need that. Many are called, few are chosen. It's that serious. And it's that deep. And if you think guns, artillery, bombs is the only type of war going on, you are very far behind. Because the real war is the war I've been fighting my whole life.